I haven't met you, or I've met you multiple times because your name's Reagan and I can't remember, I apologize. I work for a church here in town called Real Life that meets here at the high school on Sunday mornings. And part of my job is hanging out with teenagers, and part of that job is taking kids on missions trips. And so every year for the past 14 years, I've taken students on a short-term missions trip somewhere. We've gone to Mexico, we've gone to Puerto Rico, we went to New Orleans, we did 1 year on the Washington coast because COVID. And last year we went up to Alaska, exactly where we'll go again this year. In my life, I've been on 21 different missions trips, and the only reason why I say that is because every single one changes my life a little bit more. And I think that they are an incredible piece to your story. I will continue to say, until I believe it's not true, but I will continue to say there's nothing you can do in high school that's going to affect your life like a short-term mission trip. There's just nothing. There's no other trip you can go on part of. There's no sport you can play. You should do all those things. You should totally do all those things. Especially tennis, unless you play baseball. But there's nothing that's going to affect your life like a trip like this. There's just not. And we see proof of that all over the place. Kids talk about these trips for years and years. These trips have been featured in Cheyenne's yearbook in the past. Kids talk about them during their senior presentations. Whenever we post anything about it, like I'll usually post something on my personal Facebook page after the trip or something, and all these old students will comment on it. I remember my missions trip, I remember when I went there, or whatever it was. There's just nothing you can do that's going to affect your life like this. So the cool thing about a trip like this is that it will change your worldview. It'll change your perspective on how the world works and how a lot of people live their lives. And I think it gives you a better view of maybe how you can be a good citizen to the world. Luckily, we get to do all that, and we get to stay in the United States. It makes it a lot easier when we stay in the United States. But Alaska is a very different place. It's different and the same at the same time. If you've ever been to Canada, I kind of feel like it's got that feel. This feels like America, but it also doesn't feel like America. Because there's just a lot of things that are different in order to survive in Alaska. So what we'll do is the week you guys get out of school on June 17th, we'll meet in a big bus right out here in the parking lot. It's one of those buses that hold 40-something people. We'll take that over to SeaTac, get on a plane, and fly from Seattle into Anchorage. In Anchorage, we'll stay the night, and that allows us to do some cool things the next day. We're also not in a rush that next day for our 3-hour drive. It's also the first day that you get to experience 20 hours of daylight. Again, our trip this year, just like last year, we'll be there on the longest day of the year, and it's just surreal. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. It's why is it still light outside? If you've seen our video, or if you want to watch our video, I put a link. There's a QR code on your paperwork in front of you. You can see last year's trip, and in that, I'm being interviewed and talking about the trip, and I was being interviewed at 1 in the morning, and I'm just outside talking because that's how bright it is. It's really cool. It's just wild. So we'll fly into Anchorage. We get to go to church there in Anchorage, and then we drive 3 hours south to the Kenai Peninsula to a small town called Soldotna. On the drive down there, last year we kind of did a hike. I think this year we're going to really do a hike. We just had never gone last year, so I didn't know what I was getting into. And it's one of the prettiest drives you could ever do. You see wildlife all the time in Alaska. So we will drive to Soldotna, and then for the next 4 days, we will kind of have the same schedule where we'll get up in the morning, have breakfast and do devotions, and we will go and do work projects. We'll break up into work projects where we get to serve the community or the missionaries of our mission in the mornings, doing manual labor or just stuff that is really helpful, especially when you have a bunch of young teenagers that have energy. We have lunch, and then in the afternoons, we host a sports camp for kids who are usually 5th grade and under. The sports camp has 3 different aspects to it. There's archery that we actually don't oversee. There's another group coming in to oversee that. which is great because I have no desire in my heart to give some of you bows and arrows. But the two parts of the camp that we do oversee is last year we oversaw the volleyball section because we have a lot of volleyball players who went with us. And this year we will also oversee the soccer section. That's going to be pretty cool because we get to take more of a leadership role in that. Last year we just took some of our soccer kids like Maya and said just go with that group and do it. And then this year we get to lead that. So that's pretty cool. Now if you're saying, Graham, I don't play soccer, I don't play volleyball, I don't even like sports, like I'm not sure I can spell volleyball, like that's totally okay. You don't have to know anything about sports at all. Our main goal there is to make kids feel special and loved and let them know that there's a safe place that they can come and hang out during the summer. So that is our main goal. It's just we just use sports camp as a tool. And we also use it as a tool to teach them about Jesus. You don't have to be a Christian to go on this trip. You don't have to be associated with a church. You don't have to believe God exists to go on this trip. But it is a Christian trip. And we do devotions where we do read the Bible, we do sing worship songs, we do talk about faith, and we do tell the students about faith as well. But again, you don't have to believe anything that you don't want to believe. We just ask that you be respectful of our beliefs, and it usually works out pretty well. So we host our sports camps in the afternoon, and then after dinner, we usually just hang out. And honestly, they're just really long days, so a lot of times we end up playing games. It's also, again, it's like super daylight outside, so we play a lot of ridiculous games outside, and then the night usually ends with us playing inside games, whether it's Signs or Mafia or stuff like that. We usually stay up way too late, and then we get up really early and we do it all again. We do that 4 days in a row, and then our last day, we kind of take the day off, and last year we went down to a town called Homer, which is the halibut capital of the world. It's also a cute little like fishing village, touristy area. We hung out there, we went on a hike. The next day before we flew out, we drove back up to Anchorage and we went to a farmer's market. And the nice thing about being so close to where we're doing mission work, only a 3-hour flight, is that travel is just really kind of easier. It's not as stressful than when we were going to places like Puerto Rico and stuff like that. So, and we flew home and took our bus from SeaTac home. I want to run through this document that you have. So this is going to tell you everything you need to sign up for this trip, and then all the papers behind it are the paperwork that you fill out to actually make it happen. So it gives you the date of the trip and the area of the trip. The trip this year is $2,000. And if you're saying, wow, that's a lot of money, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. It is a lot of money. But we're going to talk about how we're going to help you raise that in a little bit. There's 4 mandatory meetings that you have to be at, and they are mandatory. That's why I give them to you now. You can take them to your coach, or you can take them to your job or whatever, and you can say, these are the dates I need off, and they'll give you them off if they're a good coach or employer. To apply, you fill out the 4 papers behind it, or 3 papers behind it. Some of them are double-sided. And most of these are just like, like school waivers. You have to fill out permission slips and stuff like that. Most of it is just the boring legal stuff that you throw at your mom and she fills out. This one, however, is more about you, and it gives me the information I need to buy you a plane ticket, and also just helps me get to know you more, especially if I don't know you very well. That helps me in that regard. So you'll fill out those documents, you'll keep this one because it has all of your important dates on it, and you will bring that back to me. If you are like, well, I don't go to your church or really know how to get a hold of you, 1, my phone number is on here. 2, you could always hand it to Mr. Roethlisberger or Mrs. Ellis. They would both gladly bring it to me. Or you can, just text me and we'll figure out how to do it. And then you'll also need to turn in a color copy of a government issued ID. So that's like either a passport or a driver's license. If you have one of those, we need a color copy, and that's just in case you lose your ID while we're up there. It makes it a lot easier to get you home. And all these lessons we've learned the hard way. And if you don't have one, you're like, I'm not 16, I don't have a passport yet. That's okay. Just come and tell me that, and then get in the process of doing one of those, which I just recommend you get a passport. You never know what opportunities are going to come up where you can use that. we'll just get you in the process of getting that. And then also a $500 deposit is due with your paperwork. If you are saying, Graham, there's no way my family has $500 to come up with in a month, like, okay, just come talk to me. We'll figure out how to do it. Talk with your parents. I ask that you give me something, so I know you're committed to the trip, but I was raised with a single mom. I went on 4 of these trips when I was in high school. I never paid the full deposit. I just never could. We didn't have that kind of money. So I would give what I could, and then I would make up the rest when fundraising came. So don't let that deposit be the reason you don't sign up, and don't let that $2,000, what am I trying to say? The bill, yeah, like price tag, that would have been better. Don't let that $2,000 price tag scare you away. That we've never had a kid not go on this trip because they couldn't raise money. I've had kids on this trip who are literally homeless, have gone on this trip and raised all the money. They did the hard work to make it happen. We will help you raise that money. All right. So a couple ways we do that down below is we will help you write support letters. At our very first meeting, we will help you write a really great support letter that you're going to send out to everybody that's on your mom and dad's Christmas card list, any family member that you've even heard of in the past 15 years. And you're going to send all those out, and it's going to be this nice little letter about how you're going to help kids in rural Alaska, and this is going to save you from a life of drugs and poverty, and you're going to sign your name, Jonah Simmons, and you're going to send it off, okay? And then, like, your crazy grandpa in Oregon is going to read this, and he's going to say, wow, I have to save Jonah, and he's going to write a big check, and he's going to send it, all right? Every year, every single year, without fail, somebody pays for their entire trip just by writing support letters. Every year. It happens every single year, right? And the people who send out more letters get more money back. It just happens every time. And the kids who usually, it's like clockwork. I've been doing this long enough that when we get close to the trip and they're like, I still owe a whole lot of money. I'm like, when did you send your support letters out? Oh, like yesterday. And it's like, well, that's why. That's why it's the first thing we do at the first meeting, and we're going to help you write awesome support letters. The other thing we do is we'll have manual labor projects will show up. Different community members will get a hold of me and say, hey, we need this rock moved, we need some weeding done, we're moving, we need babysitting, whatever. And I just throw that out to the group, and you guys sign up for that. And I always ask that they pay you more than minimum wage, so it's worth more to go do this than it would be to go scoop ice cream or whatever it is that you do for work. And then lastly, we do our big fundraiser, which is Chelan's biggest yard sale. We've been doing that for like 5 or 6 years now. Last year we raised $11,000 selling other people's stuff. It's absolutely fantastic. And every year we're able to pay the students who help out with that, we're able to pay them more than minimum wage. So again, whatever it is that you go and you do to make money, maybe you're the slave at your mom's coffee shop or something. I don't even know what you do. Either that or you just walk around Slidewalk. I have no idea what you do. Okay.
That's half of it.
So, you will make more money helping us at the yard sale. You'll make more money. And we give you the date of when that yard sale is already, because it's just a lot of manual labor. But again, we make a lot of money. So we pay you by the hour for that. So the hours that you put in, that's what you get paid for. So if you're like, oh, I'm gone that weekend. All right. There's some ways you can get some hours before that weekend. But you might want to be around for that weekend. It's the second weekend in spring break, if I didn't say that already. Let me make sure I got everything that I wanted to say. All this paperwork and the deposit are due back to me February 19th. So that's like 5 weeks away, something like that. Again, you can bring it to me or Mrs. Ellis or Mr. Roethlisberger. But that's when it's due. That's the cutoff. I have to buy you plane tickets that week. So literally, I buy a plane ticket with your full name and date of birth. So like, it's your ticket. And that's why I also have to have a $500 deposit, because I buy you a $600 ticket right away.